El video más importante del año fue filmado en 1983, tuiteaba Edward Snowden. En él, el ex analista de la CIA, Frank Snepp, describe cómo los medios de comunicación sirven para plantar narrativas del Deep State.
And indeed, brief the press when we, the CIA, wanted to circulate disinformation on a particular issue. Disinformation is not necessarily a lie. It may be a half-truth. And we would pick out a journalist. I would go do the briefing and hope that he would put the information in print. For instance, if we wanted to get across to the American public that the North Vietnamese were building up their force structure in South Vietnam, I would go to a journalist and advise him that in the past 6 months, X number of North Vietnamese forces had come down the Ho Chi Minh Trail system through southern Laos. Now, there is no way a journalist can check that information. So either he goes with the information or he doesn't, and ordinarily or usually, the journalist would go with it because it looked like some kind of exclusive. And I would say our percentage planning that kind of data was 70 to 80%. The correspondents we targeted were those who had terrific influence, the most respected journalists in Saigon, like Robert Chaplin of the New Yorker magazine, Kai's Beach of the Los Angeles Times from time to time, and also he worked for the Chicago Daily News. Bud Merrick of U.S. News and World Report, Malcolm Brown of the New York Times, even Maynard Parker of Newsweek magazine. We would go after these gentlemen. I would be directed to cultivate them, to spend time with them at the Caravel Hotel or the Continental Hotel, to socialize with them, and slowly but surely to try to gain their confidence by dolloping out valid information which was true. And then I would drop into a conversation the data that we wanted to get across, which might not be true. One piece of data, for instance, that we managed to plant in the New Yorker magazine had to do with a supposed North Vietnamese effort in 1973 to develop airfields along the border of South Vietnam. The reason we wanted to plant this information was that we were trying to persuade the U.S. Congress that Saigon should continue to get a great deal of aid, and that the North Vietnamese were the chief violators of the ceasefire accord. That was printed in the New Yorker magazine under the byline of Robert Chaplin, as indeed was a great deal of such information which we tried to circulate. If I planted a piece of information with a reporter, I would ordinarily then try to create an environment in which he could not check the information. I would go to the British ambassador and brief him on the disinformation I had just given the reporter. So when the reporter wanted to cross-check what I'd told him with, say, the British ambassador, New Zealand ambassador, or what have you, he would get false confirmation, the same message coming back at him, and he'd say, aha, I've got proof that Frank Snepp told me the truth, when in fact what he'd gotten was simply an echo of what I'd given him in the first place via the British ambassador or other of our friendly diplomatic contacts. I am, as an ex-CIA agent, opposed to the disinformation activities in which I was involved. I admit that I was involved, and I think it served no useful purpose. Propagandizing the American public or Congress is not the CIA's job.
Hoy, nada ha cambiado. El pasado 18 de septiembre, el Washington Post publicó: el Pentágono abre amplia revisión de operaciones psicológicas clandestinas. Las quejas sobre las operaciones de influencia del ejército de Estados Unidos usando Facebook y Twitter han generado preocupación en la Casa Blanca y las agencias federales. ¿Te enteraste de algo? Definitivamente no. Sin embargo, este año hemos tenido revelaciones, tales como que informes sobre cómo Google está controlada por la CIA o cómo el Departamento de Estudios de Guerra del King's College de Londres proporciona la fuerza laboral para muchas de las compañías de redes sociales más grandes del mundo, incluyendo las ya mencionadas Facebook, Google, TikTok y Twitter. Hemos tenido también al propio Mark Zuckerberg en el podcast de Joe Rogan justificando la intromisión del FBI en la moderación de contenido, o las recientes revelaciones de los Twitter Files. Sumado a las antiguas revelaciones del propio Snowden y Wikileaks, podemos afirmar con total seguridad que estas compañías no solo colaboran con el gobierno, sino que están diseñadas con el objetivo de controlar. Son la punta del iceberg de una estructura mucho más peligrosa para la cual vos sos el enemigo, porque la verdadera lucha es por la mente de los individuos. Como expresaba Edward Bernays, el autor de Propaganda, la manipulación consciente e inteligente de los hábitos y opiniones organizadas de las masas es un elemento de importancia en la sociedad democrática. Quienes manipulan este mecanismo oculto de la sociedad constituyen el gobierno invisible que detenta el verdadero poder que rige el destino de nuestro país. Y para controlar el comportamiento de las personas se organizan operaciones comúnmente denominadas PSYOP, operaciones psicológicas. Esto está tan normalizado al día de hoy al punto que el cuarto Grupo de Operaciones Psicológicas del Ejército de los Estados Unidos publica online su búsqueda de personal. Mira el video.
As the world watches and listens in horror, the peaceful pro-democracy demonstration in China comes to a violent and bloody end.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
There is another very important phase of warfare. It has as its target not the body, but the mind of the enemy.
These are the Psy-War soldiers.
Y si ya como vimos, Bernays fue el precursor de muchas de las técnicas que se utilizan en estas operaciones, hoy vamos a conocer al responsable de llevar esto a un nuevo nivel, la persona cuya obra ha convulsionado la geopolítica mundial de los últimos años. Estamos hablando del fundador de la Orden del Templo de Set, el teniente coronel Michael Aquino. Soy Nicolás Martínez Laje y esto es Terapia Liberal. Vamos con la intro.
Ya. ¡Feliz Navidad, pedazo de hijo de puta! Cabrones, mamones, chupapolla.